Today we're going to look at the Badshai masjid in Lahore, which was built at the epitome of the Mughal Empire. We're going to look at its background, its design, expansions, difficulties, inspirations, and what else it inspired. The Badshai masjid was called for construction by the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb in 1670. He assigned his foster brother Fidai Khan Koka to build it in Lahore. It was completed in 1673. Badshai Masjid means Emperor's Mosque. It took inspiration from the Jama Masjid in Shah Jahanabad, which is now known as Old Delhi. At the time it was built, it was the largest mosque in the world. The mosque can hold up to 100,000 people to pray inside of it. There are 3 expansions to the mosque, which we will talk about later on. Let's get into a brief background on Emperor Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb was born in 1618 in Dahood, which is in modern-day Gujarat, India. His father was Shah Jahan, who was the founder of the Mughal capital Shah Jahanabad, which is now known as Delhi. He is also known for constructing the Taj Mahal. His grandfather was Akbar, another famous Mughal emperor. Before becoming emperor, he was the governor of Gujarat in India and Balkh in Afghanistan. He ruled for 49 years from 1658 until his death in 1707. Under him, the Mughal was at its peak, controlling 25% of the global GDP and 25% of global manufacturing. He managed to have an empire where most of the Indian subcontinent was under his domain. The only one that was able to ever successfully control all of the Indian subcontinent is the British Empire. He was best known for his military leadership. He had called for the Badshai Masjid due to his victory against the Marathas in South India. He was considered the last great Mughal emperor, and the empire started to collapse quickly after his death. Now, onto the mosque itself. It's a 270,000 square foot site, most of it being the courtyard. As I mentioned in the beginning, it can hold up to 100,000 worshippers. It was common for Mughal-style mosques to have a small musalla and a huge courtyard to handle an overflow of worshippers. A musalla is an enclosed place where people can pray. This is where the musalla is located. There are 3 white marble domes on the musalla. The largest one is over the Iwan, and there are 2 smaller ones that add symmetry. Domes have a copper gold finish with gilded bulbs. An Iwan is a vaulted space that's used as an entrance and is facing a court. The concept of an Iwan originates from pre-Islamic Persia, and the Mughals ended up borrowing it. The Badshai Masjid is made out of red sandstone with inlaid marble that has a floral design. The Badshai Masjid has a total of 8 minarets. There are 4 small ones and 4 large ones. The large one is about 196 feet high. They have a marble top with a copper gold gilded finish like the marble dome. The minarets are in an octagonal shape, which is unique to the Mughals. Minarets are all over the Islamic world, and they're not only for decoration, they have a practical use. Many different Islamic empires use different designs of a minaret, but they're all used for the same purpose. They used to call the adhan. The adhan is the Islamic call to prayer. It is done 5 times a day for the 5 Islamic daily prayers. A person would climb up into a minaret and recite it aloud. Nowadays, instead of people going up, they put speakers on top of minarets. An electrical speaker that's high still reaches more people than it would with a low one. Even though minarets have a practical use, they're also beautified at the same time. The Mughals added more minarets than what was needed to add symmetry to the building. The Mughals had a strong emphasis of symmetry on their buildings. There is a marble fountain in the middle of the courtyard of the mosque. As you may have noticed, on the wall surrounding the courtyards there are these openings. There are 2 design features that are on here. The first feature is a hujra. A hujra is basically a small study room that's enclosed. The Badshai Masjid used to have 80 of these small rooms. Due to a rebellion that broke out in 1859 under the British, they ended up removing the rooms and ended up making it one long corridor. Here's what it looks like now. So the British turned it from a hujra into a dalan. A dalan is an architectural feature where instead of it being closed, it's open. The reason why the British decided to modify it is to prevent another rebellion. If it was closed, it's easier for people to come and plot together. Since it's open, everything can be heard, so it's easier to spy on people. The second important feature is the arches. This is a cusp arch, and they use this arch all over the mosque and all over Mughal architecture. The former Hujra entrances also has it. This type of arch originates from Arabs. There are also geometric patterns on the Iwan and floral patterns, with it being symmetrical. There's also a use of muqarnas. A muqarna is like a honeycomb shape or stalactite that's used to decorate empty spaces. The Mughal architecture ended up combining Arabic, Persian, and the Indian architecture together. Warm colors are a staple of Indian architecture compared to the Persians who use cooler colors. The Mughals ended up combining Arabic, Persian, and Indian designs in their architecture, forming a unique design. This is the entrance gate to the courtyard. It has decorative arches on it. The gateway is a building that has an Iwan on it, watchtowers on top, with decorative spires. There's also calligraphy on it. This is the only part of the mosque which has calligraphy on it, which is the entrance of the gateway. It has a lot of floral patterns. Even the Muqarna has a geometric and floral pattern to it, where the other one didn't have that much on it. You can go inside of it, and on the second floor of the gate, there's a mini museum in it. Next, we're going to talk about the additions to it. The garden was an addition to it. It wasn't there originally. The garden is known as the Huzuri Bagh. The Huzuri Bagh was added by Maharaja Ranjit Singh. Ranjit Singh took over Lahore in 1799, about 150 years after its construction. He made the garden in a Mughal design, and the Mughal garden is based off of the Persian Char Bagh garden, which means four garden. The Mughal garden usually had a center fountain, and then it being split into four parts by a water channel or a pathway or both. The philosophy behind the garden was to mimic the Islamic idea of how paradise is, with a heavenly oasis, trees that give shade, and a peaceful atmosphere. In the center of the Huzuri Bagh, there is the Huzuri Bagh Badri, which means the Royal Garden Brotherhood. It was built to commemorate the victory against Durrani Empire and the taking of the Koh-i-Noor, which is the largest diamond in the world and is 105.6 carats large. The British ended up taking it, and it was put inside of Queen Elizabeth's crown. After Ranjit Singh died, they built his mausoleum right next to the Badshai Mosque. Under the Sikhs' rule, the Badshai Masjid started to deteriorate. They ended up using the mosque as a military garrison and kept their horses in the courtyard as stables. The tops of the minarets were removed completely due to a war between the Sikh and the British, and instead they put light guns on top of the minarets to fire. The British ended up taking control of Lahore. At first, they used the mosque the same way as the Sikh, as a military garrison. Eventually, after the Muslims complained, they returned it back to being a mosque. As I mentioned earlier, the Hujras were destroyed because of a rebellion. Another addition to the mosque is the Allama Iqbal tomb. He was known for his poetry in Urdu and Farsi, and he is known as the intellectual founder of Pakistan. He died in 1938, and the people requested to bury him in the Badshai Masjid. He was very popular in Lahore, so the British accepted the request. This is the mosque in 1933, full capacity on Eid al-Fitr. You can still see the minarets don't have the marble top on it. This clip is from 1954, where you can see the marble back on the minarets. The Badshai Masjid, combined with other Mughal monuments, inspired the Indo-Saracenic movement by the British. It was in the 19th century with the Neo-Gothic revival. It's also known as the Neo-Mughal movement. The British ended up constructing buildings that were a fusion of Western and Mughal architecture. The British considered the Mughal classic Indian architecture, so it combined it with classic Western architecture, forming these buildings. Here are a few examples of some. This is the gateway to India in Mumbai. This is the Madras High Court in Chennai. This is the Victoria Memorial in Kolkata. And this is the Secretariat building in New Delhi. Another effect of the Mughal architecture is that the mosques in Pakistan copy the layout of a small praying area and a large courtyard for people to come in when it gets overflown. When I went there, all of them were like this except for the small prayer areas in malls. I appreciate you taking your time out to learn more about Eastern society and its rich cultural history. I hope that this can be used as a tool to make us come closer together rather than separating us.